I'm Vanessa Joy, and we are doing a real-world, hands-on review of the RF 85mm 1.2 for mirrorless cameras. All right, so hands on this lens, and truth be told, I'm not primarily a mirrorless shooter, so there's that. And I'm usually used to using my DSLR version, the EF Canon 85mm 1.4. So first comparison I'm automatically going to do in my head is they're both actually very similar in weight, but the 85 for the mirrorless camera, the RF that we're actually reviewing today, is a bit heavier. So one weird thing I noticed actually, which is kind of big for when you're throwing lenses around all the time, which I do, I'm always just kind of like throwing without looking, putting my lens back on. But if I go to do that with the 85, there's only like there's only one spot that you can use to put it on. So it's just one of those little things. So the Canon 85 for the mirrorless camera, I will say when you stick this on a mirrorless body, I'm using the EOS R, when you stick it on there, it is very like face forward. It's like a belly flop because it's a really big lens in comparison to the lighter R camera. I mean, if you have a battery grip on it, that's a little bit better, but you definitely notice that, I will say, when you put it on. But once you get over all of that and you're holding your camera correctly, which is very helpful, this is one of those cases where you want to make sure that you're really putting your palm underneath the lens. So you're putting your elbow to your body and, you know, holding the camera here or here, whatever you're going to do, but you palm it underneath to really hold the weight. If you like what you're seeing so far, make sure that you download my free branding guide. It's the magazine that I send out to all of my colleagues that I want to network with, and I send it to clients as well. There's a lot of really great wording there that you can use for your own business, and of course, tons of eye candy and photography. So go ahead, click the link in the description below for your copy of my free studio magazine. I shot a lifestyle session for a blogger, an Instagrammer who needed to photograph some clothes that Love & Lemons sent her, which is an awesome company. So I was really happy to be shooting for Love & Lemons on Instagram, and Little Lemons, like L-I-L lemons. So it's like a mommy-daughter. So we did this mommy-daughter shoot, and I used the 85 a lot. Why did I use the 85 a lot? Well, first of all, I really enjoy the compression in an 85 lens. I love that I can go down to 1.2, especially on the mirrorless system with the really good eye autofocus that it has with the latest firmware update. It is a beautiful soft background, and it lets me just really focus on the eye. So there's that. By the way, this lens, in case you're interested, it does have a control ring on the front. Such a pretty sound, and you can customize this. So you can be changing your ISO or your aperture or you can really do anything you want. And then the focus ring is here, which is really nice and smooth. And then of course you've got your focusing, focus autofocus, and then your full infinity. This picture right here, an 85mm lens is a great lens for portraits, and it's nice for an environment where you want to create a look that you are coming in on a moment, like sneaking into a moment, but not actually a part of it. So using this lens in the scenario here makes it look a little bit more like a natural shoot. You can see it's super crisp and focused right on our eyes, but it also allows the rest of the picture to kind of fall away. And it's not where she's really separated from the background. So this can be something that's a little bit difficult to achieve when you don't have a longer lens, just making everything else seem a little bit more milky, a little bit more separated. But we're really focusing on her. The corners look really great to me. I'm not noticing really any vignetting, and the focus is just sharp from top to bottom. So this hasn't been corrected in any way as far as the distortion has gone. So if you're looking at the top left there, you can really see the very straight line of that building to the edge of the photo, which is nice to be able to see, whether there's distortion or not. Obviously you see it more in wider lenses, but just something nice to look at. Now, a lot of people use an 85 for portrait lenses, and it's kind of a dub, but I also like using it for more landscape shots. Just because you're shooting a wider scene does not mean that you necessarily need a wider lens. In fact, I like the absolute opposite of that. I like shooting my landscapes with a longer lens so that the background really comes up to my subject and compresses but also is blurry. This picture that I took here is your typical kind of portrait. I knew we needed to get some portraits of her alone without her daughter and some of the little details. So what she's actually showing off here are the earrings. You know, with any of these kind of influencer shots, the more brands and names that you tag, the better chance of it getting shared. Blah, 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 all marketing. So the 85 did a really great job at just melting away the background. You know, you can see the bokeh in these shots, which is something that I look at. I love the bokeh in these shots. It's soft, it's pretty, and quite honestly, in both of these photos, I sort of didn't know, the horizon line's going right through her head. And that's usually really distracting. But because these were shot at a lower aperture, it's not as distracting as it would have been had I shot it with, I don't know, a 50 and a little bit higher of an aperture. When you're shooting with children, you shoot wherever they end up and they let you shoot. It's not always under your control. So the 85, using the lens here, it allowed me to remove a lot of the distractions by blurring them out. All of those sticks could have very easily been very pronounced and coming from behind their heads and over their shoulders, but because of the lower aperture and how smooth the lens is, you know, it ended up not being really distracting. So now this little baby is not cheap. Right now at the time of this recording, it is priced on Adorama. You can see it through the link below at $26.99, which is pretty expensive. If you're gonna compare that to my 85 1.4 for the DSLR lines, this one's only $14.99. So that is a $1,200 difference, which is pretty expensive. It's definitely a lens that you want to save up for. However, like I always say, your lenses and your lights, those are your babies for a really long time. Your bodies tend to change every 3 to 5 years, but your lenses you'll have for 10, 15, 20, probably even longer than that. So would I put this in my arsenal? Yes, I would. Right now I do not own this. This is on loan, but you know, if I'm going mirrorless, and I probably will be at some point in the future, the 85 is going to be something I put in my bag. It's definitely one that I use with my DSLR quite a bit, so I can't see myself not using it when I end up going mirrorless. I will admit the 85 is probably a luxury lens, especially since you have that trinity of lenses out for the Canon mirrorless. You have the 15 to 35, you have the 20 to 70 2.0, and you have the 70 to 200 2.8, which those actually all have image stabilization in it, and this puppy does not. However, the DSLR 1.4 version does. So just things to think about. Have fun shopping for the tools of your trade. This is Vanessa Joy. Make sure you hit subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss a thing. Bye.